So with that, I keep talking about their young age. Something, nothing, or everything, Shaq, that they were able to get this win.
Something, when you have a young squad like that, a performance like that, especially kind of given some of the issues that the Mexican national team is having at the highest level. Again, you're given opportunities, and those opportunities are few and far between, to step up, put yourself on the radar, to make an impression. Young players doing so, that's something.
So I was inclined to say something, and for obvious reasons. Shaq, you've been there.
Yeah.
First preseason game as a club team, you're playing against a team that's in season, that are fit. It's almost never about football, it's fitness, and when you don't have it, it's just a track meet, and they're going to run all over you, especially these young, hungry kids, right? And that's what happened there. Internacional may have more experienced players. They may have the more talented team. But on that day, a team that's hungry, a bunch of players that are putting on the they're putting on the Mexico jersey for the very first time, and they let them have it. So I'm going to go everything. This is everything to the Mexican program, everything to these players. Now, why everything to the Mexican program? Here's a special little statistics, that's going to hit home for a lot of you. At this very next World Cup for Mexico, the World Cup in the U.S., Canada, in Mexico, their very own country, Mexico will not have a player under 26 years of age with World Cup experience. Ooh. I repeat, they won't have a player 26 years of age or younger with World Cup experience. Why is that? Because in 2022, in 2018, you weren't preparing for the future. I go back to the World Cups of yesterday, 1994. PK shootout, Brazil versus Italy. Do you know who's on that bench hugging his teammates at 17 years of age? Ronaldo, okay? You've got to prepare for what's next. Mexico didn't do that. Tata Martino didn't do that. He left home Santiago Jimenez when he was scoring goals and took injured forwards. He left home players like Diego Lainez, and you could say whatever you want about these players, but he didn't prepare for the future. So now Mexico's in a situation right now where they have no future. So you've got to start preparing. And if they're telling us that Rafa Marquez is really going to take over the national team come 2030, if that is the case, you better start preparing the future. In that game, you had youth on display. Jorge Rubalcaba was playing college soccer at Cal State San Bernardino, and he scored that second goal right there. Efrain Alvarez has been playing youth soccer in Southern California, U15 U.S. national team, U17, 20, 23, and now full Mexican national team. You've got players who can probably be there and make a difference. Eric Lira, you have young talent. Gil Mora, who debuted at 15 years old, Shaq, and 4 months later at 16 gets a full national team call-up. All that means nothing if you can't bring them along. This is why it's everything. But you need to continue it, because if not, it's going to be nothing.
Which is going to be tough as well in the next few years. But what Javier Aguirre did say, Shaq, and I want to ask you what you think of this. He said that now all of the spots are up for grabs after what he's saying. Now he has to look at this list and really think about these players that he just saw. When it comes to the pressure from the Mexican national team that we see in general, because he also said that he saw the pride in these young players that has been lost. How can seeing even these two matches against, in front of 50,000 fans, tomorrow against River Plate, in front of 70,000 fans, how can that really put the pressure on the ones who think they have their spot already?
Well, I think the pressure's already on them, kind of given the underperformance of the Mexican national team. That pressure is par for the course, certainly at that level of the game. I have a manager who I played with in English football who always spoke about the naivety of youth. And you see some of these young talents, and it is totally lost in them that they're playing in front of 50,000. The weight of these jerseys does not figure to them. Maybe it's great, to Herc's point, it's great that they don't understand that yet. That they are still just going out there and just playing the game with a freedom, with a fun, that allows them to put together these kinds of performances. Before, and especially, and again, that performance, and certainly those comments, have to be in the context of Mexico's struggles of late. And absolutely, if this team, if the senior team, if the usual suspects aren't better, then I'm with her. Go with the young players. Go with those players who are exciting. Go with those players who are shaping the future of Mexican football and competing at the highest level, competing where Mexico expects to be.
Chris, I don't need to tell you this, but when you see these Mexican players play, a lot of them when they play with the Mexican national team are carrying, to use your reference, the weight of that jersey. They're carrying a bag of negativity with them.
Yeah.
You know, it seems like they're playing with 60 years of context of not being able to get to that fifth game or not being good enough. And they're hearing constantly that this is the worst generation of Mexican footballers, you know, in the modern era. And they're hearing the negativities about Mexican players not going abroad, how there's no Mexican talent, how there are too many foreigners in Liga MX, so these young players don't get an opportunity. And even if we wanted to be good, where's the talent? And these players are sitting here like,
Hi.
I want to play.
Here.
Yeah. I can play. You know, give me an opportunity. So to Shaq's point, you know, we've seen, and obviously Santi Jimenez, you want him to continue to do well.
Right.
But carrying that negativity to the national team, and it weighs on him. A player who plays first-team football, Champions League football, who scored against Man City, comes to the Mexican national team, and that weight of negativity has affected him. Imagine the rest. Imagine the guys who have to constantly live there with that negativity.
Yeah.
So this could be a breath of fresh air for Mexican football and Javier Aguirre.
Yeah, I can understand that baggage can get heavy, but you have an option every time you take a trip to take a carry-on, and it's much lighter
Now,
on your mind.
Now,
you know the airlines will
tomorrow,
not lose your bag.
tomorrow they could very well lose to River Plate, and they could very well lose by 5 or 6 to
And
River
that's
Plate,
okay.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's part of the growing. That's part of failing and learning.
Yeah, exactly, which is what they need, especially at this age, because it's crazy how we're saying that they're so young, but this is a U23 team practically. And that's at the ages that they should be already 2-3 years in.